Check, 1, 2, check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, check, check. Yes? 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, there we are. Hi, everybody. We'll get started in 2 minutes. Come on in, 2 minutes for the congregational meeting. This is your final warning. Hey, you. Thought I muted myself.
We're not going to tell secrets.
All right. Well, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, this is not a vote session. This is just informational, and so very informal. If you have questions, let's ask them. But before we start, let me open us up in prayer, and then we'll go. Father, we give this time to you. We thank you for our church. God, as we look back over this last year, you've been doing incredible things. God, and we give you all the praise and glory for that. Lord, as we talk about budgets, as we talk about worship director positions, changes, God, again, we just submit all of those things to your headship. We want to hear from you. We want to be unified as a body. And so lead us in the way we should go. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so there are really 3 items on the agenda to talk about. One of them is a title change for our ministry deacons. Another one is the hire of a new worship director position. And then the third is obviously the budgets. So we'll just take those one at a time. And the first one, the change in title for the ministry deacon position. Oh, I have this. I don't know if it'd be helpful, but this is a worship director job description that we've come up with. So if you just want to take one and pass that around, if you're interested in what that worship director will do, it might be helpful for you to have that as a resource. So the first thing, the change in designation for our current ministry deacons, from deacons to heads of ministry. So I've talked with all of our current ministry deacons. The process for that is they would have to agree to resign their position as ministry deacons, as deacons, and just step into a role of heads of ministry. But there's several reasons why the leadership has had discussions around this. So I just want to give those to you. The first one is that change allows people who love serving in the positions that they're serving in to do that as long as God calls them to those positions. As an elected person, they have to cycle out when their term is over. But to change their designation allows them to stay long term. That then would provide consistency, where we're not changing leadership all the time, but we can have more consistency with vision and moving forward long term. So we thought that would be a good thing to do for that position. Also, the current elected leadership ratio is a little bit large for the size church that we are currently. And so we're just trying to pare that back a bit so that we're not always scrambling to find new leaders. And that just helps us on the nominating committee side for that. And then also we are doing that with the recognition that on a vision team level, on a leadership level, our intention is to kind of reorient ourselves so that we are assigning ministries of this church to various deacon leads to follow up, to bring harmony to share vision with, to resource if necessary. So that's happening kind of alongside this. We're not just cutting them off and leaving them out on an island. So that's the reasons why we're making this change. It's not really a vote change, it's more informational, but wanted to bring your attention so everybody's aware that change is happening. We're still going to have elected vision team deacon leadership, and we're going to have elected trustee leadership and elected treasurer leadership, but our ministry deacons will be reassigned as heads of ministry. Questions? Yes?
Is there a mechanism then for somebody who may be trailing off in their...
Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
So if the purpose is to have these people stay as long as they want or whatever, is there a mechanism to, what we would have done is vote them off if they're not being effective there? Like,
Yeah,
how would
so
they,
we're
exit
putting
from
that responsibility in the lap of the leadership, where every year we will have conversations around, are they still enjoying what they're doing? Are they effective in what they're doing? Where are they going? And so there's going to be some leadership assigned to that. Yeah.
So no more deacons.
Vision team will still be deacons. Correct.
All people deacons. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Chris, will there be a head deacon?
Like a deacon chair?
Deacon chair.
Yeah, that's Andrew right now. Currently in our vision team, he's the chair of that team. Yep.
Who is?
Andrew Goodnow. Yeah. We got word that there's good bloodline there. So.
It's good enough.
It's a simple question.
Sure.
I'm just wondering if you currently have like a chart of what the existing structure is and a chart of what the new structure would be for those of us that are new?
Sure. Yeah. I should have printed that out. I didn't think about that. I'll have that available at our annual meeting. The organizational structure won't change, simply the designation. So, but I'll have that for you. Yep. Sorry.
Change the Constitution to reflect the change.
The Constitution doesn't need to be changed because we're not actually changing anything as far as our processes for electing leadership. We're just kind of redesignating what falls under elected leadership and what doesn't. And so currently in our Constitution, to have the title deacon would require a vote, but not carrying that title doesn't. And so we're just kind of moving them out of that. Yep. All right, thanks.
So who will be responsible for finding the people for the ministry roles? Is it the deacon over that area?
Yeah, so we will still have conversations around that. It won't be, so for getting our new elected leadership, we have a nominating committee, and that's kind of the team that is in charge of all of that. It's going to be not formalized like that, and so it will be more on the conversation of staff and already current elected leadership that will look at what we have going on, and if we need to make a change, we can. Going once. Okay. Our next order of business is on the leadership level. We have been talking about the need for us to continue to move forward in our worship ministry to pursue the hiring of a worship director position. We've had one in our church in the past. I don't know if Dave ever carried the worship director title, but Dave came in and then we hired Shane for a while. But over the last 10 years, we have been operating under volunteer leadership in that area. And so we felt like, for several reasons, on the vision side, that hire for a worship director is a necessary hire for moving the ministry forward. It's also a necessary hire for valuing the music side of our church, the worship ministry side of the church. And I would put it this way, I feel like that hire is really an investment in our future. Not only, when people come into church, worship and preaching are the two, music and preaching, are the two things that really grab people. And so this is a deliberate step from us to really value the excellence and what that side of it and brings to the person who might be visiting or regularly attending this church. That hire will also alleviate a significant workload from me. Right now I'm doing two jobs. One of them is managing the worship service side of things, and the other one is doing the pastoral side of things. And so that would free me up, take some things off of my plate so I am able to shepherd better and give the appropriate time to more significant things outside of the planning of the worship teams and things like that. So that's more of a personal workload. In that planning as well, there's always a significant, okay, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do for Easter? What are we going to do for Advent? And there's the creative side that's always being leveraged, where that person would take a lot of that as well. And so that would just be a help to me, kind of bringing somebody onto the team that will shoulder some of that responsibility. And then on the practical side, we felt like this was a good time to step into this hire because we've been experiencing a diminishing leadership on the worship front. And so right now we currently just have one worship leader in Paige who has stepped up and is volunteering a ton of her time to continue to keep that ministry afloat. But because there's been volunteer leadership, there hasn't been the developing of new leaders underneath that. And so right now we're kind of at a critical point in our worship ministry where God has blessed us with amazing leaders and amazing musicians. But we're kind of reaping what we haven't been sowing for the last 10 years in that. So those are some of the reasons why we're presenting this. But I wanted to open this up for discussion. I passed around the worship job description. It's not significantly different than most other job descriptions, but it might give you some insight into, is this a full-time, is this a part-time, what this person will be doing kind of on a regular basis. So, yeah.
How closely does this reflect the same job description that Shane had when he was worship leader?
I don't know. I actually haven't compared them. Yeah. No, this job description was written by the current leadership.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure.
This seems to be more comprehensive than what we would have got out of him, I believe.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's good to know.
Chris, I haven't read the job description, so you can probably answer this, but has there been a consideration about developing children's ministry, music ministry, and so that the kids are part of worship too in that sense, or, bringing...
Would that be something that this person absorbs?
I just wonder if that's something that we would value, that maybe this next person could help develop children's music
Probably.
ministry.
Preston has already, blown up my phone about his desire to have them start developing in the student ministry area as well. I do think that would be good.
I just love it when the little ones, get up and sing and bless the
Yeah,
congregation.
absolutely. Yeah. Right? Sorry. For our live streamers.
Do you have any prospective candidates right now for this, or how soon do you want to fill it?
In the budget, it's worked in as a half-year position. So we're looking at a July 1 start date. But no, we don't have any people in mind. Yeah.
Were you volunteering for the position, John?
Dave, we got another one right here.
I just want to say, I was looking at the amount, and this is just a personal thing for me. I was hoping Elaine wasn't going to be here, but I would say, just looking at the dollar amounts, I would want children's ministry to be equivalent with the music ministry, because I really feel like, I know you're saying, like, when people come in and see the church, it's the preaching and the music, but as I look around and I watch people that come, I really think the children's ministry needs to be as bolstered, if not more so. Going back to, if years ago you remember the consultants we had, and they said your target market is families. And sometimes I feel like right now it's the children's ministry struggling a little bit. Maybe I'm not right as far as participation and volunteerism. And I was talking with Elaine, and I said, you know, we stand up, we do these baby dedications. This one's really personal to me. We do the baby dedications, and everyone says, I'm going to help. And then not so much sometimes. And I'm not saying that people aren't doing things. I know people are. So don't take it that way. But I feel like we should never have a hole in children's ministry because, again, I looked today and I met some people that have moved, and I see people come in with kids, and you've got to have that strong position. And so I looked at that, and I can't find history. I can't find past numbers, and I don't know what Laura's making. I probably could ask her. I'm sure she would have told me. But, like, I think that amount's been pretty much the same. And so for me, I'm not in that position, but like to see the music person come in at a higher rate than the children's it would bother me a little bit if that was me. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of in that, I just want to take some time to acknowledge Elaine in the work that she's doing in children's ministry, because she is doing full-time work at a part-time salary, right? And so thank you, Elaine. I appreciate that. And that is a discussion that we've been having. It's kind of been a chronic thing. You know, where we struggle is which hole do we plug first? You know, and so this is more around the strategic moving forward. But I mean, your points are valid. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
I'd be interested in Paige's thoughts, because this is a place that people have been able to serve the Lord and to have really done a lot, and to say that we need somebody else to do that. Anyway, I'd be interested in Paige's.
Yeah, 100%. You mind?
Yeah, so I have been serving in some capacity on the worship team for pre-kids, so at least 10 years. I fully support the hiring of someone. I have been on teams where we've had a different leader every week, where we've had, 2 weeks, so 2 different leaders, and then just stepping in the beginning of this year, being, the guy. I can see the girl. Having someone in charge is really going to help create more of a cohesiveness in the whole ministry itself. We've struggled with different teams having different styles and picking different songs, and having someone in charge will give the opportunity for the ability to really give the congregation the chance to learn the songs that we're singing and be able to more engage in worship fully. It also will help the teams, the musicians who are learning songs, to be able to have someone in charge, that they're not having one leader on week 1 telling them one thing, and then week 3 they're doing the same song but in a different way. It's a lot of work. So yeah, I don't think necessarily we're saying like no one here can do it. We need someone from the outside. I personally, we're looking at someone to help with worship and tech, full time, right? And so I personally don't have the capacity for that in my life with homeschooling kids and things. So to be able to have someone who would come in and that's their position, that's their job full time, to run everything and have tech working out, have the time to build a team for tech, and get that going so that we're not short on volunteers all the time. I 100% see the benefits of that. So.
Yeah, I'm looking or thinking of the music ministry with volunteers we've had in the past. And what I hear you saying is that basically has collapsed, in essence. In other words, I've got some names, I won't mention them, but I think of different people that have been up on the platform performing and leading us, and now they're not there. Paige is there consistently, regularly for a while. So we have this burden on her or a void, however you want to look at it. So, two questions in that regard. One, I know there's some new folks that have been flowing into this church. I don't know, are there any talented, capable people that have flown in? Has God brought any people in here that, oh my gosh, they have music and whatever talents? So the volunteer side, in my opinion, has worked in the past, could work in the future, but I don't know that. My second question has to do with, you said the amount listed here and the dollar amount was, and the hiring would be for half a year. So you're envisioning doubling this from a budget standpoint and becoming a full-time position. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yep. Yeah, so to answer your first one, the volunteer base. I would say that, again, God has blessed us with amazing musicians over the years in this church. And so our volunteer base is still strong. And in that volunteer base, we do have talented individuals who might be able to be developed into a leading role. It's that developing side of it that we're really missing without somebody in place to do that. Or at least do that well. And so I feel like that's really the key component to moving it to a place of what I would consider healthiness again. Because we have had those leaders stepping off, but no development taking place behind that. Yep. Yeah.
Just a quick shout out. I know Monica said you didn't get a chance to read. Yeah, I'm here in the back. Got a chance to read the job description. I just wanted to give praise to that job description because I was reading it back there. Really well written, and Chris has talked about the administrative need of organizing the service, and we've talked about the developmental need. The job description mentions those, also mentions the spiritual dynamic, and I think that's really important, right? So when you're leading worship, when Paige is, there's a lot of work that goes into the spiritual preparation. It's a little bit exhausting if you're a volunteer fitting that into your life. But somebody who's a worship leader, worship pastor, just teaching the church about worship, leading the church spiritually in worship, takes a significant amount of preparation, just like kind of preaching a sermon does. Takes a lot of preparation to do that too, and the church doesn't see that. And so when you are able, I just think the job description is well balanced. It presents the need really well. And wanted to point out those three aspects. So good job, whoever wrote the job description.
Andrew.
Way to go.
I guess one other thought, and again, I haven't read this in detail, but at various times we've had worship services at other times, a Saturday night, a Sunday night, or whatever. It's been whatever. Would this person be enabled to do those kinds of things? Would we be expecting additional worship experiences, that kind of thing?
I mean, I don't know if I would say we would be expecting those things, but yeah, I'm all about more worship, you know. I think that's great.
I would just like to raise an applause for Paige, Tim Brotzman, and Rich, because they've done a wonderful job with worship.
Amen. Yep. Anything else? Okay. Well, tied very closely to that, I think, is the budget. And so why don't we move into that? Would you like my microphone or would you like a handheld?
Now, I don't have copies of the budget to give to everybody, so hopefully you've seen it. The big changes for this year, we did increase the budget slightly, really about $13,000 in real sense. Part of the issue I've had this last year is trying to understand how the church looks at a budget and how accountants look at a budget and how we put it together. I'm an accountant by trade, that's what I do. So I look at budgets differently than sometimes they're presented. So I look at this, and we really increased revenue by $13,000. The budget, however, is $53,000 higher. That's because when we got the insurance money for the FLC and all the damage and stuff, we were really blessed. The timing of all that sucked, but we really got blessed by the amount of money we got from the insurance to cover all the things that were damaged and we needed to do, so that we actually came out ahead quite well. We've done everything we've needed to do for any of the damage that was done, and we had some left over. We're going to roll $40,000 of that to the new year, and we're going to add $15,000 to fix the parking lot and repave it or reseal it and all that. And we're adding $25,000 to the capital piece so that we can do some repairs. Over the last few years, we've fallen behind in things that need to be fixed and repaired in the church, partly because of budget, partly because, the coordination, and we're at a place now that, if you delay too long in fixing things, then you have to fix them. So we're able to hire a handyman, a contractor, come in and help fix things on a regular basis that really need to be taken care of. So that's where the extra $40,000 comes into play. There's not a lot of new big changes. The salary for Dana, because he's working for the NAB part-time, 25%, we were able to reduce the amount that we give him by that 25%. So that was like $20-something, $22,000. Again, the new worship director position, if you include all the expenses and the benefits, we're adding another almost $30,000 for half a year. It'll obviously be twice that for next year, but that's the other big change. There really wasn't a lot of big stuff. We moved a couple of items from the general budget to the missions budget that seemed more appropriate for that. We made minor tweaks and things that needed to be changed and adjustments for stuff. But those are the big items that we did. So if anybody has any questions on any of that, I'd be willing to take your question.
I have not looked at the budget, but has any money been put aside to increase the outside lighting by the entrances and the exits?
Yeah, well, part of that, I think, is...
That's already 50% done.
Yeah, we've done part of that, and we're planning on working on some of that this year as well.
I have a question on your last page, assets and liabilities section. How do you come up with the value, or who generates the value of both the land and the buildings numbers that are there?
I don't know. The report, do one of the treasurers know how that? I'm guessing, as an accountant, it has to do with the... Do you have a microphone over there yet? No? It has to do with the original purchase price, not necessarily the actual value of it.
A few questions here. I know you talked about the budget going up about $20,000 for giving, but when we take a look at what was donated last year, it was $541,000. So we're actually looking at $126,000 delta, or 23%.
Well, that's true, yes.
Okay,
I
so
was talking on the
how are
budget.
how are we going to make that happen, I guess? Versus, something I think more realistic.
Well, speaking as an accountant, you always want to try to be conservative with your numbers and your estimates. And you're right, that seems like a large jump from actual to what our budget is. And I have to take into account, I keep seeing more people in the church each week, especially because I deal a lot with the family and the children's ministry. I see more and more families coming into the church. So I'm assuming that at some point you're going to start seeing that upward projection of revenue based on the number of people that are attending, especially post-pandemic, as people feel more and more comfortable coming back regularly. But also, as a Christian for 40 years, if there's a need, God covers it. The church, the leadership of the church has decided that a worship director would be something that would be really helpful for the ministry, for the care of the church, for the things that need to be done. And the trustees, the deacons, we've all voted on this, and we've looked at it and said, we think this is a good idea. Now, from the faith standpoint, if it's right, God will cover that. While we didn't hit our budget last year for giving, we also didn't need it because, while we didn't hit the number of expenses we were going to have either. So you could look at that two ways. You could look at it, that we don't put a proper budget together. You could say that. Or you could say that, God knows what you need and covers what you need when you need it. So in some ways, this may be a little step of faith because we're increasing when we don't see necessarily that we have a projection to show that. We're anticipating it. So my answer to you is, that we're going to have to trust God. If these are the needs of the church, then He will cover the needs of the church.
So on the revenue of $541,000, what were our expenses last year?
Unfortunately, I don't know why, but I don't have the income statement before me. But it was within like $2,000, I think. Did we? Yeah, I think it was within $2,000.
Okay. Couple of questions. We've got capital improvements on our general budget. Why are they there versus, say, our building fund?
Pardon me?
We have expenses as capital budgets in our general fund. Why are they posted there versus on our building fund?
Well, these we call capital improvements for a lot of stuff that we need fixed in the church, like when we redid the flooring in the schoolrooms off the FLC. That's a capital improvement. All the stuff that went into that is capital improvement. As opposed to, building on an addition or, another building, which, has also been talked about at various times. So we're looking at these more as smaller capital projects that need to be done just to maintain the church or make slight improvements, like for the youth room, the Apex. For stuff like that. So that's how I look at it, and that's what we're doing with the budget.
Okay.
Like we're going to be replacing the windows in here, right? Sometime soon. That's a capital improvement.
Okay. Back to the balance sheet. Can you break down our $268,000 that we have in liabilities, what that is made up of?
Yes, I have that.
General, because I know we don't have a mortgage or anything like that, so that
Right,
seems
but,
pretty high.
Like the some of that is the excess insurance money that we got last year, because we got the money, we need to spend it. It's considered a liability. Again, this is the difference between an accountant and a regular person, how you look at you. We would look at, as a regular person, I would say, oh, we got extra money for the insurance, that'd be like an asset. Well, no, it's actually in a balance sheet. It's considered a liability because it's considered something you still need to figure out how to pay out. It came in for one purpose. It needs to be paid out for that. So that was almost half of that. Well, no, it was 60,000 roughly. There was the operating reserve of $148,000 that we have. And it's also the balance of our capital improvements line, because we put generally a $30,000 piece in the budget each year, but that actually goes into a pot of money set aside for like big projects. We have a wall collapse, or we need to replace the roof, something that's going to cost you more than $30,000 in 1 year. We have a reserve for that. So a bunch of that, $268,000 is in the reserve.
So they're more designated funds as opposed to a current liability?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's actually I don't think there's any real current liabilities as you would.
Right, that's what confused
Yeah.
me, because
Yeah.
I saw designated missions, which I understand, but the fact that you said we have all these other designated
Right.
funds, that's more, should be
Yeah,
a different
we don't,
category other than
we don't
the
have
current
any
liability.
outstanding debt or anything
Okay,
like that.
I wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
And then, under fund balance, how do we have a negative $1.7 million unrestricted fund balance?
All right, that's a fun question. Do we know how that's come up, that is calculated?
I don't know for sure, but I think it's because we've never actually closed out the books in Power Church each year. That's my...
Essentially, that's the number that balances your assets to your liabilities. Yeah, okay. It's more of an accounting thing than a number thing, I think. So that's the best answer I can give you right now for that.
Okay. Those conclude my questions.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question?
I just have a rave. I walked back today and I noticed that around the Vertical Kids check-in area, there was put this little frame around it. And I thought, that looks so nice and finished and complete. And every week I come in, I see little things like the paint back there, or the flooring in the Sunday school rooms, or I know that there was a little bit of a surprise mold find that was fixed in the women's bathroom. And so Morgan, you have been so, you've done a great job, and I know a lot of that is because of you. Relying on volunteers to keep this church looking beautiful is a big job, and so having a line item where we have regular, trusted, ethical handymen to come in and do these little things, and not only do the little things that we see, but go above and beyond and say, I think this would look better, and I'm going to just do this quick thing. I've been really blessed by it, and so I'm so excited to have the church move forward with having plans to have somebody kind of oversee the little things that need to be done. So just thank you so much for all your hard work.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Becky said what I was going to say. Being in for the whole month of December, doing all the decorating, I got to see Morgan work, and literally every day came in and I went, whoa, whoa, whoa. I one time painted with volunteers the whole sanctuary, the foyers, everything. And it was a labor of love, and it was well done by so many people. But it was hard, and I wasn't working at the time, so I could commit. A lot of people are working, but above all else, what to see Morgan, he's seeing the unseen. He's fixing the black mold that nobody would have noticed, which is a safety concern. He's finding the little nudges, and I'm very, very thankful for what the church did to hire Morgan, but also, Morgan, for what you've done to give of your time and love to make this church look better. What he did in the back is just tremendous, so thank you. My other thing, too, as a long-term volunteer here with various decorating and being up in the storage a lot, I know it's not in the budget this time, and I'm just planting the seed for a pole barn or some other really good storage area with simple locked cages. I went up this year to get decorations and found basically crap up there that somebody thought, oh, I'm not using it in my house anymore, but maybe the church can use it. Or when I did all the VBS, like, oh, I had this all sorted and ready to go, and I go and find all the caps off the markers. So I know it sounds silly, but as a volunteer, we want to have a level of respect for our church forever, for everything, because it's God's resources, and it's frustrating to see when things get dumped, thrown about, not cared for. It's a waste of God's resources. So what's one way around it? Protect it. And it doesn't have to be through an ironclad, gun-enforced doors, but we can add simple, cages. But we also need space. Upstairs, probably almost a third of the space now is used by non-PCC ministries. So we're very, very overfull. We'll always be overfull. So I'm proposing with our wonderful, wonderful space in the back that at some point in time we maybe look at budgeting in a pole barn. So that's it. But thank you, everybody, for what you're doing.
Yeah, those discussions have been had. And we do know the need of space in the church. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is as soon as you build a space, it'll get filled. I also want to add, for the last few years, we haven't really had a designated handyman to fix things. And what's happened is we've come to the point where so many things need to be fixed. So yes, we're thrilled that we're able to get money in the budget to be able to pay a professional to actually deal with the stuff and try to get caught up and then even ahead on some aspects as well. Yeah.
So changing the subject a lot, but back when you were, and I have given away my copy of the budget, so, but you said you were moving some things from the general budget to the missions budget?
Yes.
At least a year or so ago, there was a big deficit in the missions giving, and is that going to impact, I don't know if that's persisted or what's happened since then, but I would worry about adding more things to a budget that we've traditionally had trouble keeping funded.
Well, yes, as I mentioned, we moved, $16,000, $6,000 for a radio outreach that we use, and NAB support for $10,000. Again, it's partly, it seemed to be a better fit to be a missions budget item, but you're right, the costs still need to be covered. Now, we're still ahead in the missions budget, right? So, we don't have a deficit there. So we're still good, and again, if it's a need, God is going to come alongside us and help with that.
It was just a matter of which budget it was going to be in. It's going to be covered.
It's going to be covered as part of missions now.
Right, and what I'm hearing is that, in fact, this year we didn't have a deficit in the missions budget?
Correct.
Okay, then I feel better.
Okay.
But keep giving to missions.
Does anybody else have a question or thought? Good.
Thank you, Chris. All right, that is everything that's on my agenda. Don't make me eat my words, but anything else? Okay.
To
Brian.
talking about volunteering, next week we are looking for volunteers at 10th during the 10:30 service to help set up in the FLC for the congregational meeting. So
great.
If you're available and willing to lift tables and move chairs or otherwise help, we'd love to have you there.
Yeah, awesome. Next week during second service. Okay.
Who is Morgan?
Oh, who's Morgan? Morgan, could you stand up for us and show us your pretty face? There we go. Yeah. He also blesses us with his piano playing on Sunday mornings, and so that's a great gift to us. Thank you for that. Okay, one more shameless plug. It's not really a shameless plug. We've been doing prayer and fasting this whole month of January. At the end of the month, the women are doing a praise and worship reflection time, right? I don't know what to call it. Is that good enough? Where they're basically going to gather together and they're going to talk about all the Lord has been doing kind of through this month of prayer and fasting. The men are going to do the same thing at the same time. So that will be Saturday. What time's your thing? Okay. Saturday sometime, Saturday morning. 9 to 11. All right, and so the guys will do that too. And so I just want to encourage men, come to that, right? I'll be leading that time. I think that's a great time where we can, hopefully some of us have done some of this prayer and fasting and seeking the Lord. And so I would just love to get together and hear about what maybe the Lord has been doing and spend some time in worship with men.
You're going to have muffins?
Should we?
Prayer and fasting.
This is the, I don't know, is it the celebration after the fast? I don't know. I'll think about it, Diane. It depends on how I feel that morning. Yeah. The women will? Okay, well, we got to live up to expectations, so. All right. All that to said, Andrew, would you mind just coming forward and closing us in prayer? Andrew's been sitting on our vision team as our chair this year. And so, first of all, I appreciate you doing that. You can take mine. But yeah, wanted to give you some face time. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
All right, let's pray. Father, we just come to you today, Lord, and we're thinking about the wisdom that you give us. Lord, your wisdom, not ours. I pray that this would be a church that seeks you first and foremost in everything. So Lord, I pray over this budget discussion, our church's direction, our congregational meeting. And God, I just pray that it wouldn't be our agenda, Lord, instead that we would just follow what you've already laid out. So God, I pray that we would listen this week, that we would hear your voice, hear where you're guiding us. And God, as we come in the next week, Lord, when we bring up these things and talk about things like budgets and bathroom sinks and all the things that we have to talk about, God, I just pray, Lord, that it would be you and not us. Lord, that we would have unity as a church. Lord, we ask that we would be effective as a church in reaching the lost, Lord. And Lord, I know that's yours. So Lord, I just pray that we would give that to you in everything, Lord, that we would surrender our striving. But God, above all, we just pray that you would be glorified. So Lord, to you be the glory. We ask for your wisdom. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Thanks, everyone.